Hello, Shubhankar. Welcome to the interview.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Shubhankar. So you have a very interesting name. What is the meaning of this Shubhankar?
Sir, basically, it is a Bengali name. It means auspicious or something which is very positive. It is also another name for Lord Shiva.
Acha, interesting. So Shubhankar, just briefly tell me about yourself.
Definitely, sir. So as you know, my full name is Shubhankar Pathak. I have completed my schooling from Delhi, post which I did my graduation in electrical engineering from IIT ISM Dhanbad. I then worked for 6 months with Cisco Systems as software developer engineer. I worked there for 6 months and then I left to prepare for civil services examination. And this is my first attempt.
So what motivated you to leave such a reputed company like Cisco and come for civil services?
Sir, I think I had this notion in me to prepare for the civil services exam for a long time. My father is a civil servant and I have seen the kind of impact a civil servant can have on the society. And after my third year, it was time that I had to actually decide on what I want to do. And after some research, I decided that I would prepare for the examination. However, after my internship at Cisco Systems, I also decided to give a shot to this career before choosing to fully prepare for the examination. After working there for 6 months, I thought that probably I had more interest towards the public orientation rather than working for a private company.
Okay, great. So recently the government has expanded the list of IIT and IITs and IIMs, and also it has increased fee to a drastic level. How do you see this move?
Yes, sir. I think it was necessary to increase the number of IITs because earlier there were only 7 and plus ISM, which was recruiting from IITs, and the geographical reach was very less. Also, the number of students who were applying for these courses were increasing day by day. So it was very important to increase the number of IITs, and it was a good decision to have one IIT in every state. As far as fees is concerned, it was my batch through which the fees were increased, and I have paid almost 10 lakh rupees plus for my engineering. And I believe that it is justified because the kind of resources that the IITs have provided, the infrastructure and the amount of investment that goes into it, I think that is a justified decision from the government to increase the fees, because it has been increased only for a group of students. For SC, ST and other EWS category students, there have been scholarships and their fees are still minimum. So it has been only levied on students who can pay the fees.
So how much scholarship as a student coming from the disadvantaged background can avail?
Sir, it depends on for SC, ST, the fees is only their mess fees. Their academic fees are already paid. For OBC and EWS students, there are slabs basically. So it depends on in which slab you fall. Except OBC creamy layer, they can avail a scholarship based on their annual income.
Okay, don't you think it is another disadvantage for people coming from general class and economically weaker sections?
No, sir, because the loans are available very easily because you're studying in a premier institute. So the banks are willing to give you loans at lower interest rates. Also, I think the placements are good enough for you to cover whatever investment you have made into your education. And this is something that you're investing in yourself. So there should not be that much apprehension. And compared to other, especially private engineering colleges, the fees are still very reasonable. For 4 years, it is 10 lakh rupees, and I don't think that it should be taken as a burden. It is an investment that you're doing on yourself, and it is a correct decision, in my opinion.
Okay. So I also see that you are an electrical engineer. So what are the shortcomings that power discoms are always in loss?
Sir, they have not invested enough in their infrastructure, in their power distribution. Also, the fact that they have resorted to long purchase agreements. So, for example, if they have to do power distribution today, they are doing it for 25-year agreements without knowing what the capacity will be 25 years or the demand will be 25 years down the line. So this has been their primary issue. And also there is a cross subsidization issue in power distribution, where the state electricity boards have not been able to regulate the fees adequately. So that has been major issues.
So, as I can understand that you are saying that it is mainly supply side issue and not the demand side issue. Am I right?
Sir, it is the transmission side and distribution side issue, because we already have more than enough generation in the country today, and the transmission is not efficient. And that is why even on the demand side, the demand is there, but the way it is being distributed, there is a fallacy in the policy, in my opinion.
So how you can reduce the transmission loss?
So, for example, the industries have been allowed to access, that they have been allowed open access policy. So that should have been taken in after discussion with the discoms itself. Secondly, I think in tariff, the way the tariff is decided, it is a lot of political populism is there. So that should not happen, because it is taking a lot of loss on the discom side. So these two things primarily have to be addressed.
No, my question was related to how do you reduce the transmission loss? You're telling about distribution.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. So transmission losses, first of all, there has to be investment in the transmission infrastructure. There has to be substations. The substation also have to have feeder lines, because currently we have very extended substations and the feeder lines are less. So we have to increase the density of a feeder line so that the efficiency in transmission can be improved. And then we also need smart metering, so that we can actually see how much a consumer is using electricity at what time of the day and when is the peak demand, so that we can supply in that sort of a ratio. So these two things can be done.
Okay. How do you see the future of EV in India? What are the obstacles that could potentially hamper the growth of EV industry in India?
So definitely the EV industry has a very bright potential. But if you look at it currently, there are a few issues that I would like to point out. Firstly, the climate of India, which is hot and humid. We have seen fire catching up in a few in a few scooters that were being tested on EV. That is one major issue. Secondly, currently we do not have adequate infrastructure. So even in a city like Delhi, we do not have 100 or 200 charging points. So that is a major issue. Range anxiety for customers is an issue currently. Thirdly, the price is very high for any for an electrical vehicle. For example, Tata Nexon, the petrol variant starts at 8 lakhs, but for the EV variant, it is starting at 15 lakhs, which is out of reach for majority of the public. And also the batteries require lithium, which we are completely import dependent on. So that if we move towards EV on a large scale, our import dependency on crude might decrease, but on these batteries will definitely increase.
So, do we develop these batteries in-house, like in India?
So currently our in-house development is a little less. However, we can look at alternatives. For example, aluminum is a very good alternative for lithium batteries, and we are the fourth largest producer. And with a little more research and development, we can shift towards more aluminum-based batteries. It will also suit our environment more. And lithium, for example, currently Suzuki has signed a contract to develop batteries in Gujarat from 2025. So we have to ease our policy so that we can develop more lithium batteries in India itself and reduce our import deficiency.
So, has aluminum-based batteries been tested anywhere in the world?
So it has not been tested to the scale which is required, but it has definitely been in the technological circles that aluminum can be a probable replacement, but the large scale testing is yet to be done. That is why we are still mostly dependent on lithium.
It is just a concept right now.
Yes, so that is why more research and development is required in that area.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll ask Akshat to carry forward.
Gautam is, I guess.
Yeah,
Gautam, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Vaibhav. Hi, Akshat. How are you? Hi, Shubhankar. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm fine. Thank
Good
you.
afternoon. So, Shubhankar, you shared your father is a civil servant, I believe, and that was kind of an inspiration for you, and you felt that that is how you wanted to make an impact. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. So when and you mentioned something like I saw the impact of what impact civil servants can make in the social system change, etc. So just wanting to understand that along with the civil servants, who would you look at as additional stakeholders or partners within the entire ecosystem who could also contribute to this impact that you talk about?
So firstly, it would be the larger public officials, which involves our political leadership. Secondly, it would be the civil society, the NGOs, the people who are working at grassroots level, along with the administration. Thirdly, it will be the society themselves, who will have to take initiative in whatever steps that the government is taking on overall social development.
Okay. And what role do you see for NGOs, and what kind of a relationship do you see between, say, the civil servants and NGOs, probably? Yeah.
Sir, in my opinion, the geographical penetration of NGOs is much more, because the public administration can be a little centralized, but the NGOs are working on very specific problems, on very specific issues in very specific areas. So this collaboration can be enhanced, and it can be worked so that it can benefit both sides of the coins, the administration as well and the public as well, through the link which is the NGOs. So that is how I feel this system can be strengthened.
Right, right. So when you talk about geographical penetration, do you think, or do you also mean to say that the NGOs can reach to areas where governments cannot?
Yes, sir, that has been the case, and it is not that it will happen always, but it has been the case, and NGOs can be more effective in this sense, in my opinion.
Okay, and other than the centralization, what would be a few reasons for this? Why would the government's capacity be limited to reach into, say, greater depths, greater geographies, deeper geographies, as compared to, say, the NGOs?
So firstly, the human resource is limited in the public administration arena. Secondly, the time is also an issue, because as public officials, many a times they have a lot of responsibilities at the same time. So it might not be feasible for a public administration at any level, for a public official to have that kind of penetration at each and every point of time. So because their work is so much distributed, that is why the attention they can give on every aspect is limited, which can be filled through civil society organizations.
Okay. So would you not want to give preference to a career with the civil society, say NGOs, over being a civil servant?
Yes, sir, this is also something that I was thinking when I was in college, but I realized that I wanted to be a career civil servant where I could work on diverse issues and diverse challenges and in multiple areas. With NGOs, again, it would be the thing that it would be very limited in scope, and it would be in very limited, as I said, in geographical penetration. And my aspiration is to become a career civil servant.
But I think you said that NGOs have a deeper penetration, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, sir, definitely. But for example, if there is an NGO which is working on education, so it would, if I were to be in that NGO, I would probably only work on education for a long period of my time. And there is also the aspect of social status that is concerned with civil services. Considering all these things, I would rather be a career civil servant.
Got it, got it. And so you, fair enough, Shubhankar, I think fair choice as well. But also, I think something you mentioned, that this is a really fruitful collaboration that should actually happen. It's kind of a complementary thing. Although there were certain instances where you said that even government has limited penetration, even NGOs have limited penetration, but I believe at the end of the day, it kind of complements, they kind of complement each other. But do you think the government is kind of restrictive or being restrictive of operations of NGOs, and is kind of being very limiting their scope further, even with the limitations you mentioned as far as the NGOs are concerned? Do you think the government is further restricting that?
Sir, I think you're making this comment based on the FCRA amendment recently. And that amendment was done so that the international funds, which are roped in by many NGOs, that are not used against India's interests, which have been observed in the past, for example, in the Kudankulam project in Tamil Nadu. So that was done for that aspect. I think the government has overall if you look at it on a bird's eye view, it has encouraged ground level engagement with the civil organizations. For example, we have a national voluntary policy from 2007, which has been implemented in good stead. So we should not look at it in a very limited point of view. That amendment was done to cater to certain specific NGOs which have been misutilizing the resources that they have garnered from outside India.
Any examples other than Kudankulam where you feel that the NGOs have been misusing funds for treaty for kind of say purposes which are not in benefit of the country?
So, for example, when there were protests going on in Delhi regarding the anti-CA protest, there were some few NGO names were touted, and even our national security advisor had cautioned against certain NGOs. So that was another incident recently which happened.
Right. Got it, Shubhankar. Okay. Also beyond this, I think there was something you mentioned about there was a question on scholarships, EWS, SC/ST, etc. So as far as the RT Act is concerned, the RT Act allows EWS students free education in private schools. So there is a clause which requires the government to reserve 25% seats in all private schools for EWS category students. So do you think this could, if this is implemented well, this could be counterproductive for the public schooling system, the government schools, etc.?
No, sir. Basically, in my opinion, this is another prospect where the private schools also have a public function, and they have to remain socially responsible towards the society as well. There were cases in many private schools, especially in Delhi, where they were partially selecting students based on their parents' profession or background. And in this context, these rules were initiated so that every student, irrespective of their background, has access to good quality education and hence good quality opportunities, which he or she can decide for themselves. So I think overall, this is a good decision, because even in private schools, it will enlarge diversity of these schools and open mind of the well-off children when they mix with these children, to see what their problems are and how they are struggling in life and how they can help them. This will also make them emotionally intelligent. So I think it is a good move, in my opinion.
Right. So what you mentioned is something as to why private schools should actually do it. Right. But my question is that if private schools, I am saying that they should do it. Okay. And I am saying that if a best case scenario that a lot of private schools go ahead and do it, and we have full consumption of these seats, 25% reservation seats, it will negatively hamper the government schooling system, because the government is also making a lot of investment in terms of infrastructure, teachers, curriculum, all of those things. So then there is a possibility of that being disregarded.
I'm sorry, sir, I could not understand the question earlier.
No.
Yes, sir, I realize what you're saying. But at the end of the day, it is also a question about choice. If I am an EWS student and I want to study in a particular school, and I'm not being given that opportunity because I come from a particular background, so this is against our constitution as well. And such situations should not occur. And that is why these rules have been imparted on private schools. So I don't think it is counterproductive to the public education system, which is already intaking students from various backgrounds.
Right. Nice. Good to know this opinion, Shubhankar. And so beyond this, I think you've also shared your interest on automobiles and also I think football, etc. So you mentioned about there was a discussion around EVs. Who currently is the best EV? What if I would have if I have plans to say buy an EV vehicle? Would you recommend one to me, and which one would you recommend?
Sir, I would first want to ask what is your daily run and where would you mostly use it, and what will be your budget?
Okay, so my daily run would be mostly city based with frequent long distance visits, say once in a fortnight, say about 300 kilometers. So this would be my range of travel, and in terms of say budgets, it would be somewhere between say 10 to 12 lakhs.
Sir, getting a EV between 10 to 12 lakhs might be a little challenging because Tata Tigor is starting at around 13 lakhs, the least which I can remember. So if you can push your budget a little, I would recommend you to definitely buy the Tata Nexon, because if you are, even if you're traveling 300 kilometers in a fortnight, that vehicle can easily give you a charge of 220 to 230 kilometers. And with regenerative braking, and there is still enough infrastructure in and around Delhi, around 300 kilometers, to cater to your needs. So I would definitely suggest you to buy an electrical vehicle.
How long does it take to usually charge an EV for this kind of a travel?
Sir, it depends. If you are using a fast charger, it can be anywhere between 1 to 2 hours. But if you are using a normal adaptable charger, it can be around 10 to 16 hours. So even in 2 to 3 hours, you can charge your battery around 20-25%, which would be enough for the last 50-70 kilometers of your leg.
Okay, and what is the cost effectiveness? How cost effective is this in terms of daily running as compared to a petrol run car?
So from what I have read from the reviews and seen from people who are using EVs, it is anywhere between 0.8 rupees per kilometer to 1.5 rupees. And if you're using fast charger, it pushes up to 2 rupees per kilometer, which is very good compared to diesel or petrol vehicles, which are anywhere between 8 to 10 rupees per kilometer.
Got it. Thanks, Shubhankar. I'll keep these suggestions in mind if and whenever I go for a buy. And how's Real Madrid doing? Kaisi chal rahi hai performance?
Sir, we have been defeated by Barcelona 4-0 recently.
Okay.
That was a humbling defeat, but apart from that, this season we are doing well. We have recently defeated PSG in Champions League. It was a tremendous comeback. We are currently leading La Liga by a safe margin. So overall, I think we should be winning the La Liga if such blunders are not committed regularly. And Champions League can be tricky because we are facing Chelsea in the next in the quarterfinal stage.
When is the match?
The Champions League match, sir?
Yeah.
So I think it should be in one in Bernabeu and one in Chelsea's home, which is the Stamford Bridge, if I am not wrong.
Right. I think the next match clashes with your interview. So yes, yeah. So great. Thanks, Shubhankar. That's all from my side. Akshat?
Yeah, thank you, Gautam. So good afternoon, Shubhankar.
Good afternoon, sir.
So you mentioned in your hobby that you follow Indian automobile market. Okay. So from the previous discussions also, so carrying it forward, I just want to ask you, have you heard about SIAM, Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers?
Yes.
So every year when the budget is about to be announced, or after it is announced, this Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, they always try to lobby the government or play all their tactics to somehow increase the sales of vehicles. Okay, so they are also justified in doing so because automobile sector is a very major chunk of our manufacturing sector. So, but on the other hand, there are policies of odd and even vehicles like in Delhi to curb the pollution. So, what according to you would be a solution to strike a balance? Because we want to increase the sale of vehicles also, and on the other hand, providing vehicle to every citizen will lead to more and more vehicles on the road, and in turn a lot of air pollution and other problems. So how to strike a balance? Is there any solution to it, or just we should go on with the status quo? What is your take over it?
No, sir, definitely there has to be a divergence in the way the automobile market is currently functioning in India. The SIAM and the government have to work in synergy if this industry has to do well. And I think they are doing it well because the automotive mission policy of 2016 to 2026 has been designed by both the government and the SIAM. And there has to be a shift towards electrical vehicle flexible fuels. And in that way, we also have to remove the very old vehicles that are already plying on the roads, which are increasing pollution, and they are a safety hazard for other vehicles on the road. So this kind of collaboration is required where vehicle scrapping can be promoted with these companies, and that can be recycled into new vehicles, which can fit the current demand and the modern engineering problems.
So you are saying that we need to continue with moving with the sale of vehicles that is going on currently. So the sale of more and more vehicles to people should continue. So you are in that favor.
Definitely, sir. We should not make any policy where we restrict the people's choice from buying any commodity that they want to. But having said that, we have to shift our focus towards more renewable energy-based vehicles and clean energies, and rather than continuing with our gasoline products currently. So that kind of synergy is required between the government and the CM, so that we can have a sustainable solution going forward.
Okay, nice. Can you elaborate or put forward some measures that have recently been announced in the budget the budget of this year, which and how they impacted the automobile market in India?
So one that I can remember is the battery swapping policy that was announced. So basically what it entails is that suppose if I have an electrical vehicle and my battery gets discharged. So as we go to a petrol pump and get our tanks filled, we can exchange our battery and for a completely charged battery and continue without having to waste time in charging our vehicles on the transit. That I can remember. I don't remember, like I'm unable to recall anything else from the budget, but recently our Minister of Road Transport and Highways has said that our highways would become like the US highways in few months time, and that the EV cost would come down to the similar range as petrol vehicle cost in next 2 years. So these three announcements I can remember.
Okay, so this battery swapping will it really work on ground? Because earlier also you have told that the infrastructure of charging the vehicles is not very robust in our country. So will it work? I mean, what's your take over it?
It can definitely work, sir, if we put our minds towards it and we put our efforts towards it, because it will be very convenient for people to then use electrical vehicles, and it will reduce their transit time and charging time. Even currently, when we have CNG vehicles, people are waiting at the CNG pumps for almost 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So that time could be reduced to 15, 20 minutes in electrical vehicles, and it will also promote clean energy vehicles on the road.
And what is the current scenario of charging of these vehicles? And apart from the big metro cities, are there charging points in tier 2 or other cities also?
So the penetration is less currently. It has to be more if people are to incentivize to buy electrical vehicles. So even in tier 1 cities such as Delhi, the infrastructure is currently limited. Just 2 or 3 days back, our Minister of State has announced that all over India, we have only 1700 charging stations. So definitely that density and reach has to be improved.
Okay, okay. And also you mentioned that driving is your one of your hobby. So just elaborate on that. What do you drive and what is this all about? You just mentioned driving.
Yes, sir.
So which
Sir,
vehicle you prefer driving, or is there any favorite of yours or not?
Sir, I have a license only for 4-wheel. I cannot drive motorcycles. And currently, like the vehicle which I have, I drive that. I enjoy driving because, sir, it gives you more access to places where conventional transport systems cannot take you. And driving gives me a certain sort of freedom of expression. And it is also one of those things where a lot of my senses are activated at the same time. And I really enjoy that experience. So that is why I've mentioned it.
Okay, nice. So do you drive daily, or is there any set frequency for your driving passion?
Sir, if I haven't driven for a long time, then I definitely do take out my car for
Okay.
15-20 minutes. But however, it is more like where, suppose in my home, if somebody has to go somewhere, then I would be the first one to volunteer that I will drive. So because I have a very less time currently to pursue my hobby. So in that ways, I'm trying to fulfill it.
Okay. So a few years back, the government announced a Good Samaritan law. Can you elaborate on that? What is it all about? The Good Samaritan law.
I'm sorry, sir, I'm unaware about it.
Okay. Okay. So as you mentioned, driving as a hobby. So while driving, you must have seen a lot of road signs.
Yes, sir.
When you drive, you must have seen a lot of road signs, various type of signs. So can you classify these signs? There are certain types of signage system that is prevalent in India. So can you classify them?
Sir, I can mention a few signs that I can remember off the top of my head. For
Okay.
example, there is a stop sign where you have to check before you take your car forward. Then there is one sign that school ahead. So you do not have to honk there and you cannot press your horn there. And you have to take your car in a very safe manner because children might be there on the road. Then there is a no overtake sign. Basically, it is a single arrow and another arrow is
Okay.
crossed. So that means that you are not supposed to overtake on that road because it might be dangerous. Sir, I can remember these signs off the top of my head.
Okay. So also there is a lot of fuss around manual versus automatic transmission vehicles these days. So what kind of vehicle do you prefer? And I would like you to explain what is the difference between these two.
Sir, I personally prefer manual vehicles because it gives me more control of the car. The difference basically is that in manual vehicle, you have to operate the clutch and drive the vehicle in the gear ratios that you want. In automatic, this is done by a complete different system where you only have to use the accelerator pedal, brake pedal, and the steering. So you do not have to use the clutch at all. There are a few automatic transmissions like we have AMT, we have DST, DSG or DCT. Then we have the very old technology, that is called automatic in itself. So there are few different technologies in the market, and it depends on the use case what you want to have.
Okay, is there any difference in the fuel consumption in these two types?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. For example, there is a CVT automatic. So there the fuel consumption is lesser because it works on two belts and not mechanical parts. So it can ideally have infinite ratios. So because of that, the energy consumption is less. Whereas in DSG or dual class transmissions, the energy consumption will be more. So the petrol consumption is more. So here, and even in a few other automatics like AMT, so the mileage will be a little less. But at the end of the day, it depends on your driving style. So I can drive a manual vehicle and get less mileage than you driving the same vehicle in an automatic transmission.
So if I were to purchase a vehicle, and there are two variants, the manual and the automatic one, and I'm little bit tight on my budget also, and also I prefer economy of fuel consumption. So what would you suggest me, a manual one or automatic?
Sir, if you do not have any hesitation in driving full experience, I would definitely prefer, I definitely suggest you to buy a manual. Otherwise, you can go for an AMT option. So that has a physical clutch, but it is controlled by an ECU, an electronic control unit. So that the fuel consumption is only marginally less, but you can have the comfort of an automatic with a good fuel average also.
And presently, which vehicle is providing the best automatic transmission?
Sir,
In the range of 10 to 15 lakhs, say.
Sir, I would go with, there are few dual clutch transmissions. So for example, we have in Kia Seltos, which is just little higher. It is around 16 lakhs. So that is a very good. And then the recently launched Skoda Slavia, that also has a dual clutch transmission. So these are very good automatic transmission in my opinion.
Okay, so you have also mentioned that you have played inter-IT in cricket.
Sir, I have not played inter-IT in cricket. I have played within my college itself.
Okay.
I did not go for inter-IT tournaments because it used to happen in December. And at that point of time, either I was preparing for some examination for companies or I was helping my friends through placement process.
So you are a fan of cricket. You play cricket.
I play cricket, sir. I seldom watch it, but I prefer to play cricket more than watching it.
Okay, so are you a batsman or bowler?
Sir, while I was in school, I used to be a bowling all-rounder. However, in college, I transformed to an opening batsman.
Okay, so you fast bowler, spin bowler?
It was medium, neither very fast nor very slow.
Okay, so still you play or have you left it for for the preparation? You're not getting time to play.
Sir, I'm not getting time to play also, and where I live, there are not a lot of people who play as well. And ever since the lockdown, people have been little hesitant in coming out of their homes as well. So I think for the past 1.5 years, I've not played cricket at all.
Last 1.5 years. Okay. And one last question, I just want to know that as you are a Real Madrid fan, so I just wanted to know what is the problem plaguing the Indian football sector? Why we are not having such professional and good championship and league competitions as we are having it in Europe? What is the problem over here?
So the biggest problem is that viewership is less. So until and unless people want to watch football, the investment in football would be less, and very less people in their young ages would want to aspire to become a footballer. So in my opinion, the demand in India for football is very less. Secondly, infrastructure is not very good. For example, when I was in Dhanbad, I visited the Jamshedpur, the Tata Club. So except that kind of infrastructure, not very significant footballing infrastructure is present across India. Even in Kolkata, it is more about passion and less about the infrastructure side of things. So these two problems, in my opinion, are the major issues.
Do you have any solution for these problems? I mean, if you are, let's say, one day you get a position of sports secretary in a particular state, or any other position of power related to sports policy of a state or even at national level. So what would you try to do? How would you try to bring about a change?
So firstly, I would try to have a few more international collaborations. For example, there are a lot of retired players, suppose Xavi, who retired from Barcelona. He went to play in Qatar. We can invite these players to play in India in the Indian Super League, which is now gaining more traction than any other league. So we can attract foreign talent, which also has a good market appeal. And then we also have to increase the choices for people who actually want to be involved in sports from a very young age. We have to tap the talent and train them in such a way that they become very good football players, and our national prestige can be improved through this. For example, in international tournaments where India is even lagging behind Bangladesh and Nepal. So I think here, if we can improve the national pride, automatically the demand will increase for football in India.
Okay, so in future, do you see that Indian football scenario will reach the status of the Euro Cup or other professional leagues in European and American continent?
Definitely, sir. In fact, even currently Atletico Kolkata, which is the club from Kolkata, which is playing in ISL, it is a subsidiary team, or it is a partnership team of Atletico Madrid in Spain. So there is interest in Indian football. There has been a lot of interest in UK regarding growth of football in India. So, and then there is also this thing that major clubs in Europe are now trying to segregate from the Champions League scenario. So we can tap these opportunities and create more linkages where our players can get that exposure outside and become better players and improve our national pride as well.
Okay, so thank you, Shubhankar. That's all from my side.